I want you to just picture a scene with me. It feels like it's straight out of a movie. It's the first century, a scorching hot day in Galilee. You're standing on the shoreline and you can barely move. The crowd is. It's just absolutely massive. Thousands of people pressing in, all jostling for position. It gets so intense that the person everyone came to see, he can't even stay on the beach. He's literally getting pushed into the water.
It creates this incredible visual, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Jesus has to improvise. He wades out, climbs into a small wooden fishing boat, and pushes off just a few yards. So now, the water is his buffer. The boat is his stage, and that sloping shoreline turns into this massive natural amphitheater.
It's a brilliant crowd control move, but it also, it changes the dynamic completely. We're doing a deep dive today into Matthew chapter 13. And this is such a pivotal moment in the text. We're shifting from direct instruction to something a bit more cryptic. We're talking about stories, 7 to be exact, all revolving around one central theme, the kingdom of heaven.
And that phrase is just the heartbeat of Matthew's gospel. The kingdom of heaven shows up, 32 times in the book. But you're right, the delivery mechanism changes right here. He sits in that boat, bobbing in the waves, and he doesn't give them a list of rules. He starts telling stories about dirt and weeds and fishing nets.
And before we get into the stories themselves, I want to stick on that setting for just a moment. You mentioned the amphitheater effect. Is that just poetic language, or is there, actual science to it? Because speaking to thousands of people without a microphone over the sound of waves, that sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It sounds impossible, but the geography totally backs it up. Near Tabgha, on the north shore of the Sea of Galilee, there are these very specific natural coves. Archaeologists and sound engineers have actually tested this. The shape of the hill creates a bowl, and the water acts as a reflector.
So the water actually bounces the sound.
It does. Yet tests confirm that a speaker sitting in a boat, talking in just a normal conversational volume, could be heard clearly by thousands on the shore. It was a perfect, natural acoustic sound system.
That is fascinating. So the setup is perfect, the audio is crisp, the crowd is locked in. But then the content gets a little weird. He starts talking about a sower and some seeds, and the disciples are just standing there, scratching their heads. In verse 10, they actually interrupt him to ask, "Why do you speak to the people in parables?"
It's the obvious question, isn't it? If you have life-saving information, the secrets of the kingdom, you usually want to be as clear and direct as possible. You put it on a billboard, you don't wrap it in a riddle.
Right. If I'm trying to warn you about a fire, I don't write a poem about smoke. But Jesus gives an answer that, honestly, feels a little uncomfortable. He says the parables are designed to reveal truth to some, but to conceal it from others. That sounds, kind of exclusionary.
It can feel that way on the surface.
Yeah.
But think of it more like a sifting mechanism. Jesus quotes Isaiah 6 here, about people who are ever hearing but never understanding. The parable acts as a filter for the heart.
So it's a test of interest.
More than just interest, it's a test of receptivity. If your heart is hard, indifferent, or just antagonistic, the story remains just a story. It's a nice anecdote about farming, and you walk away unchanged. The truth is concealed because, frankly, you didn't care enough to dig. But if you're hungry for the truth, the riddle actually draws you in. You ask questions. You lean in.
So he's not hiding the truth to be mean. He's hiding it so that only the people who actually want it will find it. It kind of protects the message from being trampled by people who don't value it.
That's the core of it. It separates the spectators from the seekers. And that leads us perfectly into the first story, which is all about that very idea, the parable of the sower.
This is the big one, the decoder ring for all the other parables. You've got a farmer, he's throwing seed everywhere, and it lands on 4 different types of ground. The path, the rocky ground, the thorns, and then the good soil.
And we have to get out of our modern heads to really visualize this. When we hear path, we might think of a paved sidewalk or a hiking trail. But in first century Galilee, fields weren't fenced off. They were just open strips of land.
So people just walk right through the planting fields.
Constantly. Villagers, travelers, animals, carts, public rights of way cut right through the farmland. So the path isn't concrete, but it might as well be. The soil is packed down so hard from years of foot traffic that it's impenetrable.
Which explains why the seed just sits there, it can't get buried.
Exactly. It just sits on the surface, totally exposed. And Jesus says this is the person who hears the message but doesn't understand it. It makes no dent. And because it's just sitting there, the birds, which he says is the evil one, come and snatch it away instantly.
Okay, then we have the rocky ground. This one always confused me because I picture a field with a bunch of loose stones lying around. Why wouldn't the plant grow there?
It's not about loose stones on top, it's about what's underneath. In that region, you often have a solid shelf of limestone bedrock lying just a few inches beneath the topsoil.
Ah, so it's a shallow pan.
Correct. And that creates a weird biological effect. Because the soil is shallow and sitting on rock, it heats up incredibly fast in the sun. It acts like an incubator. So the seed just bursts open and shoots up.
It looks like instant success.
It looks like a miracle crop.
Ah.
But there's no root system. The roots hit that limestone shelf and have nowhere to go. So as soon as the sun, which represents trouble or persecution, gets hot, the plant just withers.
This feels like the emotional high experience. You see this a lot. People get incredibly fired up about a new idea or a new faith. They're 100% all in on day one, but the moment it gets inconvenient or socially costly,
they vanish. It was all surface-level enthusiasm with absolutely no depth.
Which brings us to the third soil, the thorny ground. This feels the most relatable to me. The soil is deep enough, the plant grows, but it's got competition.
And the competition is brutal. We aren't talking about little garden weeds. These are native Middle Eastern thistles. They have these aggressive, dominant root systems. They don't just coexist, they invade. They steal all the moisture and the nutrients.
And Jesus calls these thorns the worries of life and the deceitfulness of wealth. That phrase, deceitfulness of wealth, always sticks with me.
It's so fitting. The idea is that these things, they lie to you, they promise security or happiness, but really they just drain your resources, your time, your mental energy, your focus. The message of the kingdom gets choked. It's still there, but it becomes sterile. It produces no fruit because it's just starved of attention.
But then finally we get the payoff, the good soil, and the numbers here are staggering. He says it produces a crop 100-fold, 60-fold, or 30-fold. I know we aren't farmers, but I assume 100-fold return is good.
It's astronomical. I mean, in the ancient Near East, a standard good harvest might yield 10-fold, maybe 15-fold if you had a banner year. A 30-fold return would be the talk of the town, but 100-fold, that's lottery-winning territory. It signals that when the message actually lands in a receptive heart, someone who hears, understands, and holds on to it, the impact is exponential. It's not just good results, it's miraculous abundance.
So that's the soil. Now the camera shifts to the seed itself and the environment it's growing in. The parable of the wheat and the weeds. This one plays out like an episode of a crime drama. A farmer sows good seed, but at night an enemy sneaks in and sabotages the whole field.
This is such a fascinating story because of the specific botany involved. The text identifies the wheat as zizania, or darnel.
Darnel. I've heard this called false wheat.
That's exactly what it is. In the early stages of growth, darnel looks almost identical to wheat. Even a trained farmer would struggle to tell the difference until the ear of the grain actually forms. It's a mimic.
So the enemy isn't just trashing the field, he's planting a counterfeit.
It's a malicious confusion. And here's where history gets wild. This wasn't just some hypothetical story Jesus made up. We have records from Roman law, specifically Digest 9.2.27, that lay out legal punishments for sowing darnel in an enemy's field.
Wait, seriously, this was a real crime people committed.
It was a known form of agricultural terrorism. If you hated your neighbor but you didn't want to get caught burning his barn, you'd sneak in and sow darnel. It wouldn't be discovered for months, and by then your neighbor's harvest was totally ruined. It was petty, calculated revenge.
That is unbelievably petty. So in the story, the farmhands realize what happened. The weeds are popping up everywhere. Their instinct is, let's go rip them out right now. But the master says, no.
He stops them. And it's not because he likes weeds. It's because the roots are intertwined. Under the surface, the wheat and the darnel are all tangled together. If you rip up the weeds now, you're going to kill the wheat too.
So the lesson is patience.
The lesson is that judgment belongs to the end. The field is the world. The enemy is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age. We often want immediate justice. We want God to rip out the weeds right now. But the master's saying, wait. Good and evil are going to coexist until the final separation. It's a mercy to the wheat to delay the weeding.
That is a tough pill to swallow when you're looking at a field full of weeds. But let's look at the growth trajectory. We get two short parables back to back. The mustard seed and the leaven. Both of these seem to be about small things getting big.
They are parables of contrast. The mustard seed was proverbially the smallest seed a Galilean farmer would handle. It's just a speck. But it grows into this massive shrub, 8-10 feet tall.
And Jesus mentions the birds of the air nesting in his branches. Is that just, set dressing?
No, that's a callback. In the Old Testament, specifically in Daniel and Ezekiel, a great tree sheltering birds was a symbol for a mighty empire that provided shade for the nations. Jesus is saying this tiny, insignificant movement, this kingdom that looks like a speck right now, is going to grow into a global shelter.
And then he pairs it with the leaven. A woman hides leaven in 3 measures of flour.
Again, the scale is key. 3 measures is about 50 pounds of flour.
50 pounds? That's not a loaf of bread.
That's a wedding feast. That's enough to feed over 100 people. And she takes this tiny bit of leaven-fermented dough and works it in. Now, usually in Jewish culture, leaven is bad. It represents sin or corruption spreading.
Like the leaven of the Pharisees.
Right, but Jesus just flips the script here. He takes a symbol of corruption and turns it into a symbol of transformation. The kingdom is like that yeast. It's invisible, it works quietly, it's not flashy, but you give it time, and it permeates every single ounce of the dough. It changes the nature of the world from the inside out.
I love that image. It's subversive. It's not an army marching in, it's yeast working through the dough.
It's the ultimate inside job.
So we've covered how it grows. Now let's talk about what it's worth. We get the parable of the hidden treasure and the pearl of great price. These two always seem linked.
There are twin parables, but with a crucial difference. In the first one, a man is walking through a field, and he just stumbles upon buried treasure.
Which, again, sounds like a pirate movie, but this was the ancient version of a savings account, right?
Exactly. Wars swept through, people buried their family wealth, and sometimes they died before they could reclaim it. So finding a hoard in a field was a rare but real possibility. This guy finds it by accident. He wasn't even looking for it.
Contrast that with the merchant in the next story. He's actively seeking fine pearls.
He's a pro. He knows the market. Pearls from the Persian Gulf were like the diamonds of the ancient world. This guy is on a hunt, and he finds one pearl of surpassing value.
So one guy stumbles into it, the other guy hunts it down, but the reaction is identical.
This is the critical point. Both of them go and sell everything they have to buy that field or that pearl.
And I think that's where people get hung up. They focus on the selling everything part. It sounds like this painful sacrifice. I have to give up my house, my clothes, my money.
But look at the text again. In the treasure parable, it says he sells everything in his joy.
In his joy.
That changes the whole equation. Think about it. If I offer to trade you a briefcase with $10 million in it for your car, and your car is a rusted-out clunker, do you mourn the loss of the car?
Not for a second. I'm throwing the keys at you.
You're laughing while you do it.
Yeah.
It's not a sacrifice, it's a bargain. That is the economics of the kingdom. From the outside, it looks like you're losing everything. But from the inside, the value of what you're gaining, the kingdom, is so astronomically high that giving up everything else is just the logical, joyful price of admission.
That's a powerful shift in perspective. It's not about duty, it's about value.
Value drives the transaction.
So Jesus rounds out this teaching with one final image of judgment: the net.
The dragnet. It's a fishing method where you pull a weighted net between two boats or from the shore. It just scrapes the bottom. It catches everything. Kosher fish, non-kosher fish, seaweed, trash.
No discrimination.
None. The catch happens first. The sorting happens later. It echoes the wheat and the weeds. The kingdom gathers a mix, but at the end of the age, the angels separate the wicked from the righteous. It's a sobering reminder that just being in the net, just being around the church or the movement, isn't the same as being true good fish.
After all this, Jesus asks the disciples, "Do you understand all these things?" And they say yes. Which, honestly, I have to admire the confidence.
It's bold, isn't it? I'm not sure they grasp the full depth, but Jesus accepts it. He calls them scribes trained for the kingdom. He says they're like a homeowner bringing out both new treasures and old.
I feel like that's a struggle we still have today, that tension between the old and the new. What is he actually telling them to do there?
He's telling them to avoid the trap of choosing sides. A scribe usually just studied the old law, but a disciple of the kingdom has the new revelation of Jesus. He's saying, don't throw away the foundation. You need the Old Testament, the prophecies, the history, the depth, but you view it through the light of the new. You bring out both. You don't burn the museum to build a laboratory. You need both to understand the full picture.
That sense of continuity is beautiful, but then the movie takes a dark turn. We leave the lake, we leave the triumphs, and we go to Nazareth, Jesus' hometown.
This is the twist ending. You'd expect a parade. The local boy is famous. He's healing people. But he walks into the synagogue, and the atmosphere is just ice cold.
They start listing his resume, but not in a good way. Isn't this the carpenter's son? Isn't his mom Mary? We know his brothers James, Joseph, Simon, Judas.
It's the ultimate who do you think you are moment.
Oh.
It's what we call the tall poppy syndrome. They can't reconcile the divine power they're hearing about with the kid they saw fixing tables and chairs. To them, he's just too familiar to be special.
And Jesus says that famous line, "A prophet is not without honor except in his hometown."
It's a tragic statement, but the real tragedy is the result. Verse 58 is one of the saddest verses in the entire gospel. He did not do many miracles there because of their unbelief.
That stops me in my tracks every time. It connects right back to the very first story, doesn't it? The soils.
It's the practical application of the parable of the sower. We just spent this whole deep dive talking about how the seed is powerful, how it can produce a 100-fold crop. But here, in Nazareth, the seed hits the pavement.
The power was there. The sower was literally standing right in front of them.
But the soil was hard. It was packed down with cynicism and familiarity. And because of that, the miracle couldn't take root. It proves the point of the whole chapter. The variable isn't the power of the king. The variable is the receptivity of the human heart.
That is a heavy way to end the chapter. We started with thousands on the beach hanging on his every word, and we end with his old neighbors just shrugging him off.
It forces the question on us, doesn't it? We can't just analyze the stories. We have to locate ourselves in them.
Right. So here is the thought I want to leave you with today. We talked about the hard path, the rocky ground, the thorns. If the seed, the truth, is always good, and the variable is the dirt, what does your soil look like right now?
That's the question. Are there rocks of shallow enthusiasm where you're starting things you never finish? Or are the thorns of worry or that deceitfulness of wealth crowding out the things that actually matter?
Identifying the rocks and the thorns is the first step to clearing the field. Thanks for walking through this field with us today on the Deep Dive.
Always a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.